The moment you open your mouth to explain yourself, you've already lost. Picture it. Someone accuses you, a subtle jab at dinner, a questioning of your competence in a meeting, a partner twisting your words. Your chest tightens. Cortisol floods your system. Your brain screams that you're being misunderstood. So you speak, you clarify, you justify. And in that exact second, you've stepped into their courtroom. You've accepted the role of defendant. You've given them the judge's bench. Here's what Machiavelli understood that you don't. Power isn't about being right. It's about who holds the frame. And the moment you defend yourself, you've surrendered the frame. The fake world taught you that if you just explain clearly enough, people will understand. That truth wins. The real world runs on something darker. Whoever controls the interrogation controls reality. Drop a comment. What's one moment you explained yourself perfectly and still lost? Today, we're dismantling the psychology of defense. You're going to learn how to flip the power dynamic instantly, how to make attackers doubt their own sanity, how to use silence as a weapon. But I'm warning you, this requires killing a part of yourself you've been feeding since childhood, the part that begs to be understood. Let's begin. Principle 1. The childhood courtroom. You think explaining yourself is how you prove your innocence. Every time someone challenges you, your first instinct is to provide evidence, to build your case, to make them see the truth. You believe that if you just communicate clearly enough, they'll drop the charges. You're not in a legitimate court. You're in a kangaroo court. And you put yourself there. When you were 5 years old, you learned something lethal. Authority figures hold the power of judgment, and your survival depends on convincing them you're good. I didn't break it, it fell. I didn't hit him, he hit me first. You learned that explanation equals escape. The problem? You grew up, your psyche didn't. You're walking around projecting that authority figure onto everyone you meet. Your boss, your partner, the stranger online, even your enemies. When you defend yourself against someone, you're subconsciously saying, "You are the judge. I am the child. Please accept my plea so I can feel safe again." It reeks of submission. And human beings, primal as we are, can smell that scent from a mile away. Think about the last work meeting where someone questioned your decision. Why did you approach the client that way? Most people immediately launch into justification. Well, I thought about it, and based on the data and considering the timeline, watch their body language, leaning forward, hands gesturing, voice slightly higher. They're performing for the jury. Meanwhile, the person who asked, they're leaning back, arms crossed, watching you dance. Here's Machiavelli's first principle. The courtroom doesn't exist. There is no judge. There is no jury. There's only you and your perception of reality. When you stop treating other people like judges, their accusations stop sounding like sentences. They start sounding like opinions. And opinions? Opinions are just noise. If this is already shifting something, hit subscribe. You're about to become dangerous. Principle 2. The silence weapon. When attacked, you think the solution is the perfect comeback, the clever response, the devastating rebuttal. You rehearse it in your head. You plan your verbal counterstrike. The most lethal response isn't a response at all. Someone throws a verbal spike. You're being incredibly selfish right now. The old you says, "No, I'm not. I did X, Y, and Z for you yesterday. I'm just tired." Defensive, weak, reactive. Here's the Machiavellian approach, they say. You're being incredibly selfish right now. You look at them, you hold eye contact, you don't blink. Your face stays completely neutral. You let the silence hang for 3, 4, 5 seconds. The human brain is terrified of silence during conflict. It signals a rupture in the social fabric. It signals that the other person isn't playing the game. When you stay silent, you're mirroring their energy back at them. You're forcing them to sit in the tension they created. Watch what happens. Usually, they crumble. They speak again to fill the void. I mean, you're not always selfish, but just right now, why are you looking at me like that? They start defending themselves against your silence. The power has flipped. Someone says, "This strategy seems really short-sighted." The defensive employee launches into a 2-minute explanation of their research process. The strategic employee? They pause. 5 full seconds. Then, tell me more about what you're seeing. Notice they didn't defend. They didn't explain. They turned the interrogation around. Suddenly, the accuser is the one who has to justify their position. This is the gray rock method weaponized. You become a void. A void cannot be attacked. You cannot punch mist. You cannot cut water. By refusing to provide the resistance of a defense, you cause their attack to pass right through you and unbalance them. This requires immense internal control. Inside, your ego is screaming, "Fight back! Say something clever. You must leash that dog." Here's what nobody tells you. When you defend, you reveal your values. You reveal what hurts you. You reveal your buttons. "I'm not stupid," you shout. Now they know your insecurity is intelligence. "I'm not a bad person." Now they know your insecurity is moral standing. Silence reveals nothing. It's a dark mirror. And when they look into it, they only see their own aggression reflected back. It makes them uncomfortable. It makes them feel judged. The irony? You haven't said a word. Principle 3. Agree and amplify. You think if someone makes an absurd accusation, you need to set the record straight, to correct the distortion. After all, if you don't defend against lies, people might believe them. When someone accuses you of something absurd, defending yourself validates the absurdity. It suggests the accusation is serious enough to warrant a response. Instead, you lean into it. You exaggerate it until it becomes a caricature. Cognitive dissonance. Attacker, you're so obsessed with money, you're greedy. Defensive, you, "No, I'm not. I just want to provide for my family." Boring. Predictable. Weak. Machiavellian, you caught me. I actually swim in a vault of gold coins like Scrooge McDuck every Tuesday. Terrible for my back. Say it with a flat face, or a slight amused smirk. You refused to be insulted. You proved you're not insecure about the topic. You turned their serious attack into a joke. You established that you're the one framing reality, not them. This strips the attacker of their weapon. They wanted to hurt you. Instead, you took their knife and started peeling an apple with it. Dating scenario. Someone says, "You're so arrogant." The defensive response, "I'm not arrogant, I'm just confident. There's a difference." Now you're in their frame, using their vocabulary, defending against their judgment. The power response, "I prefer the term charmingly confident, but sure." Or, "That's fair. I'll add humility to my list of projects right after I finish being incredible." Delivered deadpan. Amused mastery. This is what Robert Greene calls amused mastery. It's the attitude of a parent watching a toddler throw a tantrum. You don't get angry at the toddler. You don't argue. You're amused by the drama because you know you're safe. When you defend yourself, you're getting down on the floor and screaming with the toddler. Don't do that. Stand up. Look down. Smile. If this is rewiring how you see power dynamics, hit that like button. Principle 4. Flip. The interrogation. You think when someone asks you a question, you're obligated to answer it. "Why are you always so late? Why did you do that? What were you thinking? And you answer. Because that's what respectful people do. Every conversation has a hidden architecture. There's a judge and a defendant. The judge asks questions. The defendant answers. Whoever is asking the questions holds the power. Whoever is answering is losing status. The most lethal Machiavellian trick? Simply refuse the role of defendant and seize the role of judge. You do this by answering a question or by analyzing their behavior instead of your own. Them, why are you always so late? Defensive you, there was traffic and my alarm didn't go off. You're losing. Machiavellian you, why does my arrival time affect your mood so deeply? See the shift. Suddenly, we're not talking about the clock. We're talking about their emotional stability, their reaction. You've put the spotlight back on them. Manager, this report is sloppy. Why didn't you proofread? Defensive, I did proofread. I just missed a few things because I was rushing. Strategic, what specifically would you like me to focus on in the revision? Notice, you didn't defend the sloppiness. You didn't explain the rushing. You redirected to action and made them define the standard. Even better, interesting. What makes this one feel different from last week's report that you approved? Now they're justifying their perception. Them, you're being ridiculous. Machiavellian you, what makes you feel the need to use labels like that to get your point across? You're analyzing them like a specimen in a jar. This is infuriating to a manipulator. They want you on your back foot. Instead, you're walking around them, observing them. Other shield phrases. Does saying that make you feel better? You seem very invested in this. That's your interpretation. These phrases acknowledge the sound coming out of their mouth, but don't accept the content. It's a boundary, a verbal force field. You're saying, this is your stuff, not mine. Keep it. Principle 5, the agreement. Abyss. You think agreeing with an accusation means accepting shame, admitting defeat, letting them win. So you fight every point, even the true ones. Sometimes the most aggressive, power-flipping move is to agree, but not the way you think. This isn't the agreement of submission. It's the agreement of the abyss. The fogging technique. Imagine someone screaming at you, listing your flaws, trying to provoke a fight. You look them in the eye and say calmly, you're right. Then you stop talking. You're right. I am difficult sometimes. You're right. I did mess that up. When you agree with an attacker, you steal their momentum. They're pushing against a door, expecting it to be locked. When you open the door, they fall on their face. They want to fight. They want resistance. Resistance validates their anger. Agreement neutralizes it. Here's the critical part. You agree with the truth in their statement without accepting the shame they're trying to attach to it. There's a difference between admitting a mistake and accepting a character assassination. Manager, you messed up this report. You're incompetent. Defensive, I'm not incompetent. The data was wrong. Power move, you're right. The report has errors. I'll fix it. Notice what you left out. You didn't address the incompetent part. You ignored the insult and addressed the fact. You took ownership of the action, but not the identity. Partner, you never listened to me. You're selfish. Defensive, I do listen. I listened just yesterday when you talked about your mom. Strategic, you're right. I didn't give you my full attention during that conversation. What did you need to tell me? You owned the specific behavior. You ignored the character attack. You redirected to solution. This signals immense confidence. Only a person who is secure in their competence can admit a mistake so easily. Insecure people fight to the death to prove they didn't make a mistake. Secure people say, "Oops, my bad," and move on. Machiavelli would call this disarming the enemy. If you lay down your sword, they look foolish holding theirs. It takes the wind out of their sails, makes them look hysterical, makes you look grounded. None of this works if it's just a tactic. If you're using these lines, but your voice is shaking, your eyes are darting, your energy is screaming, "Please like me," it will fail. Dark psychology is 20% words and 80% nonverbal frame. Why does it hurt when they attack you? Because they're touching a wound that's already there. If I tell you that you have green skin, you won't get mad. You'll think I'm crazy. You won't defend yourself. You'll laugh. But if I tell you you're a failure and you defend yourself, it's because part of you suspects I might be right. Principle 6. Integration of the shadow. You believe you need to hide your flaws, that if people see your darkness, they'll use it against you. So you build walls. You perform perfection. You defend against any suggestion that you're less than ideal. You cannot shame a man who has already accepted himself. You cannot expose a woman who has nothing left to hide. When you know you're capable of selfishness and someone calls you selfish, you say, "Sometimes, yes." When you know you're capable of cruelty and someone calls you cruel, you say, "I can be." Carl Jung understood that the shadow, the parts of yourself you deny, becomes your weakness. When you repress a trait, it gains power over you. When you integrate it, you become sovereign. The person who has accepted their capacity for selfishness cannot be hurt by being called selfish. The person who has accepted their capacity for failure cannot be destroyed by failing. Someone at work, "You're really aggressive in meetings." Defended self, "No, I'm not. I'm just passionate and direct." Integrated self, "Yeah, I come on strong sometimes. Serves me well in negotiations, less so in brainstorms. I'm working on reading the room better." You just owned it, contextualized it, and showed self-awareness, all without shame. They have nowhere to go. The attack dissolved. This is what it means to be untouchable. You become transparent. The light passes through. The arrows pass through. You're no longer a fortress that needs defending. You're the wind. The 5-step action plan. Here's your system. 1. Morning ritual, the sovereignty statement. Before you check your phone, say this: "Today I am not on trial. I don't need to be understood. I don't need permission. I hold the frame." 2. In the moment script. When someone attacks, you have 3 options. Option A, the silence, 3-5 seconds, eye contact. Option B, the deflection, that's an interesting perception. What makes you say that? Option C, the agreement abyss, you're right, nothing else. Pick one, execute it. Do not explain. 3. The 7-day social experiment. For the next 7 days, you're forbidden from explaining yourself. Late? Say, "I'm late." Don't give the reason. Spill coffee? Say, "I spilled the coffee." Don't blame the cup. Someone misunderstands you? Let them misunderstand. Sit in the fire of that discomfort. Feel the urge to fix it, to manage their perception, to be the good guy. Let that urge burn to ash. 4. Alliance audit. Tonight, review your last 3 conflicts. Ask, did I defend myself? What wound did their accusation touch? What would the sovereign version of me have done? Write it down. 5. Evening review, the frame question. Before sleep, ask yourself, today, did I hold my frame or did I step into theirs? That's it. Here's the philosophical synthesis. The world is not a courtroom. You are not on trial. And the people attacking you are not judges. They're just people trying to offload their discomfort onto you. When you stop accepting the role of defendant, something shifts in reality itself. People stop attacking because the attack no longer lands. They stop accusing because you stop reacting. Not because you've built thicker walls, but because you've removed the target. You've integrated your shadow. You've accepted your flaws. You've become sovereign. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved." But I'll give you an update. It's better to be unreadable than either. Because when people can't figure out what you need, they can't control you. When they can't predict your reaction, they can't manipulate you. When they can't make you defend, they can't make you submit. Subscribe if you're done being a prey animal in a world of predators. Drop a comment. What change starts today? What's the first defense you're going to stop making? You've been performing in a courtroom that never existed. The judge was never real. The verdict was always yours to give. Walk out. The trial is over.